Hi, my name is Catherine Bartels, and I'm a student at Azusa Pacific University. Today is January 2018, and this is for Bio 230, Anatomy and Physiology, and I'm going to talk about connective tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue, and epithelial tissue, and their structure and function. Most epithelial tissues are essentially large sheets of cells covering all the surfaces of the body exposed to the outside world and lining the outside of organs. Epithelium also forms much of the glandular tissue of the body. Other areas include the airways, the digestive tract, as well as the urinary and reproductive systems. Hollow organs and body cavities that do not connect to the exterior of the body, which includes blood vessels and serous membranes, are lined by endothelium, which is a type of epithelium. Epithelial cells derive from all three major embryonic layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. The epithelial lining the skin parts of the mouth and nose and the anus develop from the ectoderm. Cells lining the airways and most of the digestive system originate in the endoderm. The epithelium that lines vessels in the lymphatic and cardiovascular system derives from the mesoderm and is called an endothelium. All epithelia share some important structural and functional features. This tissue is highly cellular with low or no extracellular material present between cells. The epithelial cells exhibit polarity with differences in structure and function between the exposed or apical facing surface of the cell and the basal surface structure close to the underlying body structures. In the basal lamina, a mixture of glycoproteins and collagen provides an attachment site for the epithelium, separating it from the underlying connective tissue. The basal lamina attaches to a reticular lamina, which is secreted by the underlying connective tissue, forming a basement membrane that helps hold it all together. Epithelial tissues are nearly completely avascular. For instance, no blood vessels cross the basement membrane to enter the tissue, and nutrients must come by diffusion or absorption from underlying tissues or the surface. Many epithelial tissues are capable of rapidly replacing damaged and dead cells. Sloughing off of damaged or dead cells is a characteristic of surface epithelium and allows our airways and digestive tracts to rapidly replace damaged cells with new cells. Generalized functions of epithelial tissues provide the body's first line of protection from physical, chemical, and biological wear and tear. The cells of an epithelium act as gatekeepers of the body, controlling permeability and allowing selective transfer of materials across the physical barrier. All substances that enter the body must cross an epithelium. Some epithelia often include structural features that allow the selective transport of molecules and ions across their cell membranes. Many epithelial cells are capable of secretion and release mucus and specific chemical compounds onto their apical surfaces. The epithelium of the small intestine releases digestive enzymes. For example, cells lining the respiratory tract secrete mucus that traps incoming microorganisms and particles. A glandular epithelium contains many secretory cells. Connective tissue, as its name implies, binds the cells and organs of the body together and functions in the protection, support, and integration of all the parts of the body. One of the major functions of connective tissue is to connect tissues and organs. Unlike epithelial tissue, which is composed of cells closely packed with little or no extracellular space in between, connective tissue cells are dispersed in a matrix. The matrix usually includes a large amount of extracellular material produced by the connective tissue, the cells that are embedded within it. The matrix plays a major role in the functioning of this tissue. The major component of the matrix is a ground substance, often crisscrossed by protein fibers. This ground substance is usually a fluid, but it can be mineralized and solid, as in bones. Connective tissues come in a vast variety of forms, yet they typically have in common three characteristic components: cells, large amounts of amorphous ground substance, and protein fibers. The amount and structure of each of each component correlates with the function of the tissue, from the rigid grout substance in bone supporting the body to the in conclusion of specialized cells, for example, a phagocytic cell that engulfs pathogens and also rids tissues of cellular debris. Functions of connective tissue perform many functions in the body, but most importantly, they support and connect tissues, from the connective tissue sheath that surrounds muscle cells to the tendons that attach muscles to bones, and to the skeleton that supports the positions of the body. Protection is another major function of connective tissue, in the form of fibrous capsules and bones that protect delicate organs and, of course, the skeletal system. And specialized cells and connective tissue defend the body from microorganisms that enter the body. Transport of fluid, nutrients, waste, and chemical messengers is ensured by specialized fluid connective tissues, such as blood and lymph. Adipose cells store surplus energy in the form of fat and contribute to the thermal insulation of the body. Muscle tissue structure and function is characterized by properties that allow movement. Muscle cells are excitable. They respond to a stimulus. They are contractile, meaning they can shorten and generate a pulling force when attached between two movable objects, which are bones. Contractions of the muscles cause the bones to move. Some muscle movement is voluntary, which means it is under conscious control. Other movements are involuntary, meaning they are not under conscious control, such as contraction of your pupil in bright light. Muscle tissue is classified into three types according to structure and function: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Skeletal muscle is attached to bones, and its contraction makes possible locomotion, facial expressions, posture, and other voluntary movements of the body. Cardiac muscle forms the contractile walls of the heart. The cells of the cardiac muscle, known as the cardiomyocytes, also appear striated under the microscope. They are single cells, typically with a single centrally located nucleus. Smooth muscle tissue contraction is responsible for involuntary movements in the internal organs. It forms the contractile component of the digestive, urinary, and reproductive systems, as well as the airways and arteries. Nervous tissue structure and function includes neurons, nerve cells that transmit information from one portion of the body to another. Neurons stimulate the muscle cells to move and are the main cells of the central processing units of the body, the brain and spinal cord. Glial cells are also considered nervous tissue, surrounds neurons to provide biochemical support of the neurons.